For months, the Caribbean Sea has been rumbling with American fighter jets, destroyers slicing through the waters, and the largest US aircraft carrier looming like a floating threat just miles from Venezuela. Washington isn't even pretending anymore. Trump openly says land strikes are much easier. The US knows where the bad ones live, and that those attacks may begin very soon. Add to that an eye-watering $50 million bounty on Nicolas Maduro's head, matching America's reward for Osama bin Laden, and you have a spectacle that feels less like counter-narcotics and more like regime hunt theater. Why is Donald Trump targeting Venezuela with such ferocity, and why now? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. Venezuela says the answer is obvious: oil, power, and an old obsession with forcing Maduro out. The US claims it's narcoterrorism, that Maduro runs the cartel of the Suns, and that drug boats linked to Tren de Aragua and Sinaloa are flooding America with fentanyl-laced cocaine. Trump insists the strikes, more than 87 dead in 22 attacks so far, are part of an armed conflict with drug cartels. Congress is fuming, the UN is condemning extrajudicial killings, and Venezuela is mobilizing troops as US warships stack up offshore. But underneath all the accusations and counter-accusations, what really drives this dangerous escalation? The truth is, Trump's Venezuela fixation isn't born from a sudden crusade against narcotics. It isn't sparked by the death count from the boat strikes, nor by some newfound concern for the Caribbean drug corridor. This is a long brewing storm, one mixing politics, oil, personal pride, geopolitical signaling, and the intoxicating spectacle of American military power. And in the last few months, that storm has exploded into the largest US military buildup in Latin America in decades, featuring guided missile destroyers, amphibious assault ships, F-35 fighters in Puerto Rico, submarine deployments, and the USS Gerald R sailing like a message in steel. On the surface, Trump frames everything as a war on narco-trafficking. He speaks of fentanyl, cocaine, cartels, and bad ones. He says the US is finally taking the fight to the source. He points at drug boats, claims seizures of bags of narcotics spattered all over the ocean, and presents himself as the commander who finally dares to hit the traffickers where they live. But every time you peel back a layer, the drug war narrative cracks. The US intelligence community itself disputes central allegation that Maduro works with Tren de Aragua to orchestrate drug smuggling and illegal immigration. Washington's closest intelligence experts say the administration is exaggerating, overreaching, and at times inventing the threat. And yet, the Trump team doubles down, designating 8 Latin American criminal groups as foreign terrorist organizations, elevating street gangs to the same category as ISIS or Al-Qaeda, and declaring cartels unlawful combatants so that military force can be used almost without limit.
But they know we're not playing games, and just this week I officially designated bloodthirsty cartels and murderous gangs as foreign terrorist organizations, something which Biden didn't want to do and nobody wanted to do. It's true. The full might and power of the federal government now be dedicated to eradicating MS-13, Tren de Aragua. That's the Venezuelan prison gangs. These are very nice fellows. The only thing good about them is they make our criminals look like nice people. It's true. Remember when they used to say, people that come in from foreign countries are nice people. These are wonderful people. These are good people. They're not murderers. They're not terrible. These people make us look like babies, okay? You know the Hells Angels? They're among the nicest people on earth when you compare them to these thugs. And the Hells Angels actually love our country, if you can believe that. They actually do. But their members and their leaders in the United States will be hunted down I'm talking about MS-13. They're hunting them down. We removed tens of thousands, MS-13, Tren de Aragua, rooted out, arrested, and expelled from our soil like the savage monsters that they are.
Why? Because narcoterrorism is the perfect legal and political cover for something far bigger. A presidentially driven campaign to collapse the Maduro government without calling it regime change. The bounty makes that clear. $50 million, up from $15 million in 2020, then $25 million during Biden's term, now doubled again by Trump. That sets Maduro on par with the world's most hunted terrorists.
The Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Maduro uses foreign terrorist organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country.
That kind of bounty is not about drug interdiction. It is about delegitimizing a head of state, turning him into prey, incentivizing defections, and signaling to the Venezuelan military that Washington wants someone, anyone, to hand over Maduro. Attorney General Pam Bondi frames it as accountability for 2020 narcoterrorism charges. But the political undertone is unmistakable. Trump wants Maduro gone. And the timing isn't accidental. Maduro has just secured a disputed third-term inauguration, one the US, EU, and many governments reject as fraudulent. Opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez is internationally favored. What better moment for Washington to ratchet pressure to suffocating levels? Trump's rhetoric gives away the strategic intent when he says land is much easier, when he insists the US knows where the bad ones live. When he hints at expanding the strikes at Venezuelan territory, he's no longer talking about boats or cartels. He is talking about the regime itself. The target isn't a gang or a drug ring, it's the state. And then comes the phone call. Trump admits he talked to Maduro. Reports say they discussed amnesty terms and the possibility of Maduro leaving for Russia. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen even confirms the US offered Maduro safe passage to another country, a military buildup outside your borders, a $50 million bounty on your head, and a quiet exit deal on the table. This is not a counter-narcotics operation. This is a pressure cooker designed to force surrender. But Maduro refuses. Caracas calls everything a smokescreen and pathetic propaganda. Venezuela writes to OPEC accusing the US of trying to seize the world's largest oil reserves by using military force. That accusation may sound dramatic, but can anyone deny how conveniently Venezuela's oil wealth sits at the center of Washington's broader regional agenda? The US has slapped oil sanctions, asset seizures, and maritime blockade-style operations for years. Now, the military is at the door.
Secretario General, Países OPEC.
Secretary General, OPEC countries, non-OPEC countries, OPEC Plus. Venezuela formally denounces before this body that the government of the United States of America intends to take control of Venezuela's vast oil reserves, the largest on the planet, through the use of lethal military force against the territory, the people and the institutions of the country. This claim not only contradicts the provisions governing peaceful coexistence between nations, but also seriously endangers the stability of Venezuelan oil production and the world market. Secretary General, OPEC countries, non-OPEC countries, OPEC Plus. Venezuela formally denounces before this body that the government of the United States of America intends to take control of Venezuela's vast oil reserves, the largest on the planet, through the use of lethal military force against the territory, the people and the institutions of the country. This claim not only contradicts the provisions governing peaceful coexistence between nations, but also seriously endangers the stability of Venezuelan oil production and the world market.
Venezuela se mantendrá.
Once you factor oil into the equation, Trump's motivations snap into razor-sharp clarity. Venezuela's reserves dwarf those of Saudi Arabia. Even after years of mismanagement, those reserves represent unparalleled geopolitical leverage. If Washington can shape a friendly transition or at least destabilize a regime aligned with Russia and China, it dramatically alters the energy calculus of the hemisphere. Because this isn't just about Maduro. It's about Moscow. It's about Beijing. It's about signaling strength across the entire hemisphere. When the US sends its most advanced carrier to sit within operational reach of a Russian-backed regime, the message isn't subtle. And Venezuela is acutely aware. The country remains aligned with adversaries Washington wants to isolate. That's why the administration frames every strike, every designation, every aircraft deployment as part of a broader hemispheric security strategy. Trump is signaling that he will not tolerate a hostile, defiant, Russian-linked, cartel-accused government to freely operate in America's backyard. The military timeline reinforces this. It's not random. It's escalating pressure step by step. The January executive order enabling cartels to be labeled foreign terrorist organizations wasn't just an administrative act. It opened the legal door for military strikes without congressional approval. The February designation of 8 Latin American crime groups formalized the justification for force. By August, warships were deployed. By September, strikes began. By October, Trump declared the US was in an armed conflict with cartels, an extraordinary claim that expands presidential war powers dramatically. Every step increases military reach while bypassing congressional restraint. Congress saw it immediately. Senators questioned the legality of killing suspected criminals at sea. The first strike included a follow-on strike to kill survivors, prompting even more scrutiny. Lawmakers demanded explanations. The Navy commander was called in for briefings. But each time Congress pushed back, the administration pushed forward. Senate Republicans voted twice to reject legislation requiring Trump to seek authorization before attacking Venezuela. And then came the CIA authorization. Trump confirms he has given the agency authority for covert operations inside of Venezuela. He refuses to say whether the CIA is permitted to act directly against Maduro. The ambiguity is the point. The threat hangs in the air.
President, thank you. Curious, why did you authorize the CIA to go into Venezuela? And is there more information you can share about these strikes on the alleged
Well, I can't
drug
do
busts in
that,
the
but
Caribbean?
I authorized for two reasons, really. Number one, they have emptied their prisons into the United States of America. They came in through the border. They came in because we had an open border policy. And as soon as I heard that, I said, a lot of these countries, they're not the only country, but they're the worst abuser. And they've entered they've allowed thousands and thousands of prisoners, mental institution, people from mental institutions, insane asylums, emptied out into the United States. We're bringing them back. But that's a really bad, and they did it at a level that probably not, many countries have done it, but not like Venezuela. They were down and dirty. And the other thing are drugs. We have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela. And a lot of the Venezuelan drugs come in through the sea, so you get to see that. But we're going to stop them by land also.
Meanwhile, the strikes continue relentlessly. Vessels in the Caribbean, vessels in the Eastern Pacific, suspected cartel links, alleged ELN involvement. Numbers rise, 11 dead, then 3, then 6, then 14. A cycle of announcements follows. Hexet posts videos. Trump claims intelligence confirmation. The US military expands its target zone. By late October, the 10th strike is conducted. By early November, the fourth carrier is on its way. By mid-November, Venezuela is launching massive troop mobilization exercises. Every strike killing 2, 3, 6 people builds a grim rhythm. Even as flight operations continue at Caracas airport, even as deportation flights from the US send back more than 13,000 Venezuelans this year alone, the shadow war looms. The UN finally speaks, calling for a halt. warning of extrajudicial killings, demanding an investigation. But Washington marches ahead. Trump sees the human rights criticisms not as breaks, but as political noise. In his framing, this is war. The memo declaring cartels unlawful combatants formalizes it. So the real why behind Trump's targeting of Venezuela emerges through the haze. It is about forcing Maduro out without declaring war. It is about using narcoterrorism as legal cover for military escalation. It is about seizing geopolitical advantage around the world's largest oil reserves. It is about sending a message to Russia and China. It is about reshaping hemispheric politics before rivals do. It is about presidential power, show of force, and domestic optics. And it is all unfolding under the justification of stopping drug boats. Maduro understands this better than anyone. That's why he appeals to OPEC. That's why he calls Washington's actions murder and extrajudicial executions. That's why the Venezuelan legislature meets families of those killed. That's why Defense Minister Padrino Lopez declares the military stronger than ever.
Somos amantes de la paz.
We are lovers of peace. We deeply love peace. We do not want war either here or anywhere in the world. But if they come to touch Venezuela, well, they will find us here. Walk through the streets, walk through the barracks, walk through the communes, walk through the communal militia units. And there you will see a people determined to defend this homeland to the death. So, well, there's a unanimous global rejection against imperialist aggression and against the United States' intention to remain as the world's hegemon, as the world's police, and we here in Venezuela remain firm with the Bolivarian ideals of independence, freedom, and full sovereignty for our people.
Soberanía plena para nuestro pueblo.
This is not a conventional conflict. This is not Iraq or Afghanistan. This is a slow, grinding, strategic pressure campaign. Military, legal, diplomatic, economic, and psychological, designed to either break Maduro or provoke him into a mistake that justifies open intervention. Washington claims this is about narcotics. Caracas claims this is about oil. But underneath both narratives, one truth dominates. Trump wants a win, a visible, dramatic, historic win, a win that looks like crushing a narco dictator, a win that looks like controlling hemispheric security, a win that looks like forcing a regime to crumble under pressure. Venezuela, with its oil, its alliances, its defiance, and its long-standing enmity with Washington, is the perfect stage. And so the build-up continues. The strikes intensify. Congress argues. The UN condemns. The ships stay. The jets stay. The bounty stays. How far will Trump go to get the outcome he clearly wants? Thank you for watching Statecraft.